Hi all, it's another Circle Stories video to accompany the article this week, and this week it's a particularly dark topic. It's Irish corpse magic. So Irish corpse magic is something that you can find traces of in the folklore archives, but obviously with something so taboo, there are spells that have been passed down in oral tradition and which find their way into the public domain, which we'll talk about in quite unusual ways. But when you go to the folklore archives, some of the spells you'll find are for quite mundane things like toothaches, and one of the spells is to take a tooth from the skull of a corpse and rub it on your own tooth, and that way you won't have a toothache for the rest of your life. Now, there are different attributes associated with different body parts as well. For example, the hand of glory or the dead hand was used in quite a few traditions around the world, actually. I was going to say in Europe, but it's actually everywhere. Actually, you can find more of that in Owen Davis's book Grimoires, which I've reviewed before, but it's interesting. It's not based on Irish folklore, but it's about grimoires in general, but there are some dark spells in that one. But the dead hand in Irish folklore was often used to store milk, so that way you could keep your own milk safe from being cursed, but you could also, if you wanted to, curse your neighbours. And the odd thing about the dead hand is, although it was often said that you take the hand of a thief and that way you could open doors, or you could rob people without them knowing, in Irish folklore, oddly enough, sometimes the fairies would lead someone to a corpse, and which brings up all kinds of questions about the idea of fairies and the dead. Obviously, there's a big crossover there, which if you follow the blog you'll know about. But I do write about one particular story this week where a fairy digs up a corpse for someone, and so that's quite a dark tale, shall we say, but it's very, very real. Like, the idea of corpse magic was used for cursing, as I said, to attain power as well, power and wealth, and for romantic reasons. And this may sound quite bizarre, but there was another spell called the Spancel of Death, and with this a person would get a corpse, however, whatever means they needed to utilize to do so, and they would cut the corpse from the heel and cut the skin all the way around the body and create a ring, so coming down the back down the leg, and then taking the ring of skin. Now, there are a few different versions of this, but the main one is that the person would then wear this skin around themselves for 3 days, and then somehow, if there was someone that they wanted to fall in love with them, they would manage to sneak in and put that skin around them for a while sometimes, and then that person would be bound. So as well as physically binding them with the skin, once the skin was removed, the curse was that the person was then emotionally connected to the spell caster. Now, as I said, there are a few different versions of that, and if you look in some of the books about Irish magic, here's another one, Witchcraft and Magic in Ireland, Andrew Snedden, you can find variants of some of these spells as well. So the Spancel of Death is quite an interesting one, because it also was the name of a play which was supposed to go on in the Abbey, but due to the Irish Rising it didn't happen. But if you listen to my episode with Dara on Spirit Box, we talk a bit about that. So the main thing with this week's article then is just to show that there's a much darker side to Irish magic than you might kind of have known about before. And what's fascinating, as I said, is that the fairies come into that as well. So that brings in all kinds of questions about the other world and the dead, and why would fairies think that something like digging up a corpse is okay? Is it because it gives them more control over a person, or is it that they know that they have the soul of this corpse themselves? Anyway, now that brings into play the idea of body parts being treasured by ancient people as well. Of course, the Celts used to keep the heads of their enemies, and all around the world various body parts can be used for charms. Again, here's another good book actually, Pagan Ireland, Ritual and Belief in Another World, which talks about the ancient Irish and their attitude to death. And I've written about this book before on Circle Stories as well, so it's another aspect, not necessarily of corpse magic, but just to show where these ideas come from, because they're all based on what people thought about death and the other world anyway. So I hope you enjoy the article, and there are a few links to follow up. And as I said, even though I use certain examples, they're by no means the only way these spells were utilized, and we'll go into that another time, because things, believe it or not, do get even darker. But thanks for watching for now.